I'm here with Scarlett Trillia, and today we're talking about Kundalini. What the
Ooh.
heck? WTF
WWF,
is
WTF
Kundalini.
is Kundalini. Uh-oh.
WTF is Kundalini. This word gets bantered about and thrown about in so many ways in the spiritual community, especially with Yogi Bhajan's so-called Kundalini yoga, especially with Venant Wang and a few other people out there doing this Kundalini tickling energy work. And then, of course, Kundalini awakening process, Dr. Glenn Morris's new improved Kundalini awakening process, as taught by Teo Semko and others, and myself, which is part of our lineage, which is something that we are weaving in to our episodes this new season. I thought I'd read the definition of Kundalini from Teo Semko's Kundalini Awakening Process blog, which I think is a really interesting definition. And he says, or I'm not sure if it's Dr. Glenn Morris's writing, I can look it up, but he says, Kundalini is the ancient accepted term for the biological and spiritual potential of the human body, a tiny replica of the huge potentials that exist in nature. Think lightning, and the cosmos. Think Big Bang. In 99.99% of people, Kundalini goes unharnessed and lying dormant deep within their nervous and endocrine systems. In the unawakened human being, these systems are poorly connected, rusty, poorly synchronized, and unable to carry much more signal than keeps that person alive. Kundalini awakening occurs when the various parts of the brain, spine, and nerve ganglia, along with the different endocrine glands, begin to rejuvenate, better link and synchronize the gonads, adrenals, and digestive glands connected to the experience of lower emotions, connect to the master glands at the heart, throat, and brain. These systems rapidly rejuvenate, function more efficiently, and begin to carry larger quantities of bioelectric, neurotransmitter, and endocrine traffic through the body. It's a little like comparing 56K modem to a broadband T1 line. EEG and EKG scans show that awakened, quote unquote, individuals have more efficient mental and biological processes. Kundalini is what causes the great visible physical illumination, charisma, and healing abilities of saints and prophets. Every art lover has seen countless representations of the illumination of the sages, the halo and golden sheen around saints and holy figures of all traditions. Kundalini has been symbolized as the Caduceus medical staff entwined with snakes, Moses' burning bush, the Ouroboros, the world-encompassing serpent swallowing its own tail, Excalibur, King Arthur's sword, the Apollistic flame, the descent of the dove, the Kabbalistic tree of life, and more. How about that?
How about that? I thought of
How about that?
so many things have come to mind. um, can I throw a few out there? Because we're talking about
Please.
Teo.
And we're also going to relate this back to the Jyotish.
We are. So I may actually take the first step in that direction with this
Mm-hmm.
comment. So many years ago, long, long ago, far, far away, we had a retreat and Teo came and the placement, I believe, of the moon at the
It
beginning of that
was.
retreat was in
Yes.
Purva Bhadrapada, which we're going to talk
Yes.
about in terms of the upcoming full lunar eclipse this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And the one of the symbols of that nakshatra is a lightning strike, which you just mentioned in that description. But I was smiling because on that retreat, uh, so another symbol of Purva Bhadrapada and the lightning bolt is like is it a one-legged goat?
It's a goat with one leg, Eka Ajapada, or one, like it's either has just one leg, oftentimes depicted, or it's standing on one leg. And this is it. And, I wrestled with it, like, what the heck is that? And actually, I talked to Teo, our lineage teacher in this practice of Kundalini awakening process, which is a non denominational practice. Um, and he spoke about like the focused concentration of energy and the weight of just standing on one foot. Everything is there, and the lightning flash down through the central axis of the body, because Kundalini, moves in this up and down fashion, base of spine, up to the navel, back down to base of spine, all the way up to crown of head. And then there's also a downward moving flow. This is in Hindu mythology, iconography, discussed as the ascent of Shakti and the descent of Shiva. And those two, like, up. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. And, Shiva has a moon in his top knot, from which the Ganges River falls down. This is Agni rising up and Soma falling down, and these two things, because there's not just an ascent of Kundalini, there's then a descent and integration, which is generally speaking more gentle and Tinkerbell like.
And Tinkerbell like. So when we went on that retreat, it was kind of a convergence of like two clans and lineages coming
It
together.
was. And it was very
And
much a conversion of masculine and feminine.
and
Also.
it was very much a convergence of masculine and feminine. And the first thing that you handed out, do you remember this? Under
Was a
this
sock, a single
was
sock.
a single sock, one sock with two balls.
Yes.
And we all had one sock with two tennis balls in it that we were swinging around, and we were using it for like spinal adjustments. But
Fascial release
fascial
along the
release
spine.
along
Yeah.
the spine, which also is related to Kundalini.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't, of all the things to be burned into one's brain, those those socks have persevered through
Well,
the
it's when we
ages.
invented the cult of the one sock.
It is when we invented the cult of the single sock. And here we are today, years later, and the eclipse is aligned with our conference. We didn't plan this, but anyway, let's talk about Kundalini rising.
Well,
So,
and wait,
second.
so Eka Ajapada Purva Bhadrapada, this is the star sign, the nakshatra, where this full moon and lunar eclipse happens. And it is also known as the early happy feet. There's all this foot symbolism that happens here in Purva Bhadrapada and its pair Uttara Bhadrapada. And this is the burning of the funeral pyre. This is the very end of the life cycle or the cycle of karma. And the Shakti of Purva Bhadrapada Nakshatra, the star sign where this full moon and lunar eclipse happens, is Yajamana Udyamana Shakti, which translates to the power to spiritually elevate the aspirant, or the power of the spiritual fire. And Kundalini is related to spiritual fire. Eka Ajapada is also the deity of this star sign, is also a one-legged goat, or also a form of Rudra, the very fierce form of Shiva, the god of yoga. It's kind of like this prototype of Shiva, who is spiritual fire and the foundation of the spiritual universe. This nakshatra, where we're going to have an eclipse, eclipses
Sunday.
always are surprising, is a completion. It's the beginning of a completion. And I'm going to venture to say, it's been very interesting. Eclipses are always confusing. We've talked about this. It's been very interesting to watch on the interwebs. Is Trump dead? Is he alive? Is he dead? Is he alive? And this is very much the energy of this eclipse in Purva Bhadrapada.
Yeah, and let's just add a few more details. So this is the lunar eclipse, which is full. the moon will be within just a few degrees of North Node Rahu. So full lunar eclipse, and then 2 weeks later, when the moon gets over to where the sun is, new moon, it's a partial solar eclipse, which will complete this particular eclipse cycle. So the 7th, 8th of September, this coming weekend, after the recording of this podcast, and then 2 weeks later. Very interestingly, I have been asked to, I'm just stepping back into teaching, as we mentioned, and I have been asked to teach during both eclipses, of course. Typically, and tangent, but it's always useful. Typically, at this time of year in September, and we don't need to derail the podcast, but I can actually make this full circle if we need to. But this is typically a time that we would do a little bit of like a gentle cleanse, maybe a fast or a gentle cleanse to release heat that has built up through the summer months and clear the body before adding healthy heat like warming spices in our food as we prepare to descend into the darkness and coldness of winter. And it's very interesting that it coincides right now with this eclipse cycle, because between the lunar and solar eclipses upcoming is an excellent time to purify the diet. And we would typically recommend, whether or not you're taking protocol and actually doing an Ayurvedic type of cleanse, this would be a time to maybe not drink, not eat meat, whatever you choose as your practice. It's kind of doubly indicated. So hard suggestion, no pressure, but like double suggest that this is a nice time for that
I
kind of.
may offer my
Mhm.
Ayurvedic cleanse out to people right now. I was just thinking that I need to do that, and so I likely will.
Yeah.
Circling back to Kundalini.
Let me close the
Yes,
gap.
bring it.
Kundalini will be more able to move inside the body when the body is purified.
Yes, yes. And much of, Hatha Yoga, and I suppose we should talk about the sun and the moon and Kundalini, but this is a big topic. The text Hatha Yoga Pradipika, which is a 14th century text, much of the text is concerned with practices of purification. And then the later chapters talk about Kundalini and how Kundalini is awakened. You know, I've got the verse from Hatha Yoga Pradipika, because of course I do. So the first two chapters of Hatha Yoga Pradipika are about like, where do you do retreat? How do you prepare your body for spiritual retreat? Not vacation, not spiritual vacation, which is a lovely thing to do, but this is not that. It's like, where do you build your retreat hut? What food do you eat? How are you sitting? What breath work are you doing? And this is the first text that we have that lists actual yogic postures. They're all seated except for one, which is an arm balance. But in this text, chapter 2, we will find pranayam, breathwork practices that we use in modern postural yoga. We find nadi shodhana, alternate nostril breath. We find Brahmari pranayam, bee buzzing breath. We find Sitali pranayam, a mouth inhalation, a nose exhalation. And this is 14th century. Patanjali Yoga Sutra, 2nd century, there's no mention of postures or pranayam. Whether or not people were doing them, we don't know. But it's all the way into the 14th century in Hatha Yoga Pradipika that we find this manual of practice. And in that manual of practice, it's specifically concerned in chapter 3, where it gets into these esoteric practices with Kundalini. And Hatha Yoga Pradipika chapter 3, like in the later verses, it says, like a serpent, she lies coiled, closing with her mouth at the opening of the Shushumna, the central channel. When she is awakened, she rises upward like a snake struck with a stick. So it's that up and out movement. And when she rises up, she moves through the blocks, the grunties, these knots or gateways at the navel, the heart, and the head, and then drinks the amrita, the nectar that's been generated at the crown. And it's interesting. I've never heard anyone talk about this, and I don't know, but I'm just making a correlation that just came to me right now. There are these three major grunties or big knots in the subtle body listed in these early texts: the navel or the pelvis, the heart, and the head. There's likewise three Gandanta points in the zodiac of the meeting of fire and water and these karmic knots that the planets and planetary energies get to go through.
We also have the three bandhas.
Yes, yes, of course, which are related to these three grunties.
So here's the image that came to mind that also helps us tie together and kind of reflect back on that 14th century text that you're mentioning. I hope you can help me hone this till it's the perfect metaphor. But it's like, okay, imagine the Kundalini energy that we're talking about cultivating and awakening is the water that comes out of a tap, right? And have you ever taken like a dirty spoon and gone to try and wash it and you turn the tap on too hard and it like goes into the spoon and now there's like food and water all over you, right?
Yep.
So we're typically in no structured teaching environment are we attempting to blast off Kundalini without warning straight out the top of your head. Where like you could hit the snake with a stick, it would be a lot safer to coax the snake to gently unravel itself toward you, right? So if you have something like peanut butter on a spoon and you're trying to just power wash it with the tap, you're going to make a mess. If you turn it on gently, you can get some of that peanut butter off and then start to kind of, I mean, it's not a perfect metaphor, but
I like it.
You get where I'm going with this, right? It's like when the water's turned on too hard, it goes from being something that's purifying to something that's creating a new kind of mess. Okay, it's like
Yes.
not clogged or blocked anymore, but now there's
I'm
water
reminded-
everywhere. Like,
I'm
this is
reminded
just-
of when we were doing a panchakarma purification process for someone and the water went off and then we had to go open the tank to try and get a small pot of water and like there's massive amounts of water coming out. Now, with that metaphor in place, I do want to talk about a little about these different Kundalini phenomena that are being advertised and engaged in throughout the popular spiritual world. And especially this phenomena of Kundalini tickling, where basically you have a weekend workshop and you have one magnetic teacher who is offering what we call Shaktipat on some level, where the teacher ignites some of this Kundalini in a student. That's a time-honored method. The teacher tickles you with a peacock feather and psh, you get something, right? But in this new form, I think we could call it new, of Kundalini playing, tickling, you have usually two people who are one who's receiving, one who's giving, who are doing this energy work that then allows this other person to be writhing and moving with this so-called Kundalini in them. And there's a lot of things that could be said about this. Have you seen this on the interwebs? Have you seen like Instagram videos of this Kundalini tickling?
No, but I, for all that this is my primary area of interest, I have cultivated and curated for myself a social media experience that is very different.
Yeah. I also have, but I'm aware of it because of Teoji, etc. And in part, this is the cultivation of an addictive experience of energy moving in the subtle body, um, because it can be very pleasurable. And then, like we've talked about with cults, etc., that experience becomes dependent upon a certain people or a group or certain conditions.
Mm-hmm.
And we are more interested in Kundalini awakening process as taught by Dr. Glenn Morris, etc., by our teachers. It's about the self-sustenance of this Kundalini and a very gentle awakening of Kundalini that is not dramatic, but it is sustainable.
Exactly. In the sense that, let's keep using the tap as a metaphor.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say that, I mean, and there isn't actually a limited supply of energy. I mean, that's not, we're not gonna, well, okay, it's not a perfect metaphor, but let's say that you have some sort of pressure-based tank and you just go full blast. You might blast it all out, right? Whereas if you turn on a trickle, that trickle can run for a very, very long time, and maybe before the tank runs out, it's able to pump up more from the well, and it's like a constant trickle versus a single giant blast that made a mess and splashed water everywhere and then left you actually high and dry. Is that, they're not the perfect metaphor, but I'm working on it. This is
Yeah, I like it.
off
I
the
like it.
cuff, off the
Let
cuff.
me
Yeah.
define Kundalini. And this is from the Sanskrit kundala, which means coil or ring, and then ini, which is the coiled one. Also, the kunda is the pit or the offering, the container of an offering for yagya, for fire ritual, the kunda. We offer into that pit
Ooh,
of consciousness.
which also has 3 layers, just to keep it in threes.
Yes,
Yes, it
exactly.
does. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Another tangent for another time.
Yes. Right. And so she's described, Kundalini is described as the dormant coiled serpent power. And these images and metaphors of serpents are are found cross-culturally around Kundalini-like phenomena. She's described as the goddess energy or Shakti that is curled 3.5 times. And then she awakens, right? And that 3.5 times is very important. And we find like serpent power in many traditions, you know, the Ouroboros from the Greek, the Katakas, Quetzalcoatl, the rainbow feathered serpent. And then we find Njögr at the roots of Yggdrasil, which is the Norse world tree. And all point to this kind of hidden life force that's coiled and waiting and transformative. Also, the Nagas, or the ancestral serpent deities of South India. So we find this in many, many ways. Also, the serpents that are driven out of Ireland. We find these serpents at the edges of mythology of the world. We also find serpents and or dragons who are related at the edges of many mandalas or many different patterns of mythos that are at the edges protective and then also raising energy.
I guess a serpent kind of only has 1 foot. Like it.
Yes, a serpent only has 1 foot.
Or it only has 1 point on which it could stand.
Yeah. And as it rises up.
Yeah, exactly.
It looks
It
as if
rises
it
up.
has 1 foot.
It is standing upon its single self. That is correct.
Let's talk fashion.
Ooh, okay. So immediate comes to mind is the serpent character in the Disney Robin Hood.
Mm-hmm.
At one point he gets like tied in a knot and put in a basket. But
Yes.
he's so awesome because he has no arms or legs, but he has like a little outfit that he wears.
Yes. Also, I was mentioning this when I was teaching Jyotish the other day because we were studying Ashlesha, the entwining serpent star. in Jungle Book, there is the serpent that has the eyes that are
Hmm.
totally hypnotic, right?
I think in both. I think in Robin
Do
Hood
they
too.
both? Yeah,
Or
yeah.
maybe, yeah, yeah, they do. And actually in Disney they reused a lot of those template
Mm.
drawings because Baloo and Little John are also the same character.
Yes, yes.
They're the
Because I
same
had
shape
first
bear. Hmm.
mentioned Robin Hood as the serpent, and one of my students was like, "No, no, you mean Jungle Book," and I was like, "Okay," and I couldn't
It's
remember
both.
because
Hmm.
yeah, yeah, it's both.
So
So
fashion though,
fashion
hang
is
on.
the snake in Disney's little suit.
I okay, maybe we can do it slightly better. So for no good reason at all, what initially came to mind as we were turning on to record this, I don't have any explanation for this, is Joseph and the Magic Technicolored Coat.
Oh
What is that
yes,
called? Yes.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I
I think yes because it's like rainbow color. There is this
yeah,
relationship
with
between
the
the
rainbows.
serpents and the rainbows
Yeah, that's exactly right.
because of the rainbow of the chakras. Bring it. What you got?
The Rainbow Goblins. Did you have that book? Do you
Yes,
know what I'm talking about? It's like a
yes,
German book. Yes,
yes,
there is a relationship between rainbows and serpents and
yes.
Kundalini.
And
Actually, it's
Kundalini.
full spectrum, full light spectrum.
Yes, exactly. And
So I think,
that awakening is
yeah,
it's like, but any kind of serpent, snake pattern stuff like is fashion.
yeah, rainbow serpent. Tiny waistcoat, tiny hat. I can't just.
Oh, we've
Okay.
got a chat message. Who's chatting us?
Who's
Kevin. I don't even know if I want to read it.
no, it's fine.
I don't want to read it. Okay, hey Kevin, what's up? Okay. Um all right.
um, music.
Music. Tool.
What?
Anything by Tool.
Really?
The
Fascinating.
heavy bass
Okay.
is used to vibrate the lower chakras and to start to awaken kundalini like a like a volcano or a latent volcano. Um like and the spirals and the kundalini like awakening, like those heavy bass tones are very useful
Okay.
in
Yeah.
moving the inert and stuck energy in the lower chakras. So I give a shout out for Tool. Also the polyrhythmic um, polyrhythmic nature of Tool.
Fair. I was gonna say like Psytrance Festival. Um,
Oh yes,
Similar idea.
oh yes,
Great sound system. There's heavy bass, and then there's
yes.
like the high sounds. It's a kind of full spectrum.
I
Yeah.
also yeah bring it.
I was just gonna say people wear interesting things at those festivals that could be
Oh yeah,
part of the fashion pick.
add
Yeah.
snake. I think
Yeah.
Beyonce has a song that she does like a dance or did a dance with like a serpent and has like halo light around her. But I've got to look it up, but I think that would definitely be uh music pick.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Film.
I'm trying to think.
I mean,
Uh,
we can't pick The Matrix again.
no, we can't. And we can't pick the Technicolor coat film rendition either. Because and we can't pick Disney Robin Hood again because we already used these ones. So um, I'm trying to think. There is. Um, it's too bad I haven't seen more movies.
I know it's too
Um,
bad I haven't
I'm not
seen
a
more
big movie
movies.
watcher. I know I'm like I can't just use the same 7 DVDs I grew up with for my 1990s VHS collection is like the outer limits. um, no, but let's think. It would be okay. So before we answer this, because I actually do have some ideas.
Mm.
I don't know why I was thinking of A Beautiful Mind. Um, that's not my pick, but for some reason that came up. Um, one of we've talked about this on this podcast in the past, and it's something that did you have a thought?
Yeah. Well, you were talking about Beautiful Mind, and we should mention that if there is a lot of stuck energy,
This is what I was
And
going to say. Yeah.
yeah, and Kundalini begins to awaken, there can be phenomena that may be registered as madness, which is not to say that all bipolar disorder or schizophrenia, etc., is Kundalini gone wrong. That is not the case. But um, there can be, and actually Teoji, our teacher, works with a lot of people with PTSD, and partial Kundalini awakening happens a
A
lot
lot.
to soldiers in particular, because of the massive release of adrenaline that happens in battle, and then the body has not been prepared at all. And there's a lot to be said about Kundalini awakening in martial arts practice, and why there's not as much Kundalini actually that happens in yogic practice
Yeah, and we've
these
talked about
days.
this. You picked right up on the thought thread where I was going. I was saying we've started to allude to this in past podcasts, and I've been bringing this up also. And again, slight tangent, but I've had a lot of requests recently to teach like transcendental breath work or
Uh-huh.
teach practices that are
Yeah.
specifically designed to rapidly elicit a Kundalini
Yes.
awakening. And so I've been
Yes.
giving a lot of talks about trauma and about
Yes.
preparation for this, because
Yes.
like we said, we're not trying to blow our brains out with energy awakening. We're trying to cultivate a sustainable relationship with our own Kundalini that we can experience in safe ways for a long time.
Exactly. And in Kundalini awakening process, we always say that when Kundalini awakens, it's very gentle. It's very gentle and sustainable.
So the movie pick that came to mind as you were explaining that is Apocalypse Now. Sorry.
Oh,
Sorry, that's such a dark, weird thing to bring up, but that
Hey,
but it goes
no.
back to our point,
Yeah.
which is that yoga has been kind of branded as a lovely, love and light, everything going up, heart open, angels singing type of thing. It is absolutely not that. It is everything. And
Yes.
this coiled serpent of energetic potential that we are discussing resides at the base of the spine. It resides in darkness. It resides where we tend, as a society, to take all of our most difficult, unresolved things and push them down out of sight. Right?
Correct.
And I mean, it's literally essentially mixed up with your lower colon. And I mean, just to be
Yes.
perfectly frank about
Yes,
it,
it is.
it's where your shit is. Like
Yes.
that's so of course fasting and clearing things out at a physical level, of course that will make for a safer, cleaner ascension of energy. Of course.
Absolutely.
We're not just, oh, it's September and we fast in September. I mean, these are really thoughtful statements that we're making, and there's just not room on one podcast to go deep on all of them. But there is a very clear relationship between safe cultivation of Kundalini awakening and purity of mind, body, and spirit. And
Absolutely.
it's not to say that you need to be free of, no one is free of trauma, no one is free of shit, right? But and there's absolutely no shame in having big complicated things that are coiled up with your own energy. It's simply about having awareness of the potential to awaken all of these things at once, right? Whatever's rising up is what's there. So
Absolutely.
that's what you're going to get exposed to. And so yes, it is so important to create safe spaces, safe practices, safe containers, safe communities, sanghas. All of the things that we've been talking about are not like, we're not gatekeeping when we say slow down, and we're not oh, but do the really interesting breath work. It's like, yeah, we'll get there.
Right.
We'll
Exactly.
get there.
And
Yeah.
you know, um and yet there is a very specific, perceptible, embodied, kinetic, energetic experience of Kundalini awakening. That is, and it's not just a metaphor. Hey,
We've
friends
seen
who
it.
are watching our live stream, you can help us meet our goal of 1,000 listens of our podcast in September, which is so happening. And then you can also support our podcast. I've put a link. You can help pay for our podcast. That would be great. So thanks for joining and watching.
Awesome.
Right? How about a
Uh,
nice myth?
how about a nice myth? Um, have we said it all? We got our music, fashion, movie.
Mm,
That's covered.
yes,
Um, I just want to say one last thing,
please
which is
say it.
even if you have awakened Kundalini in this physical lifetime, you still have to live on Earth. I'm sorry to say.
You still have to live on
You
Earth, and
still
it
have to live
doesn't
on
mean that
Earth.
you're a nice person.
Nope.
Kundalini is going to exacerbate enhance whatever it is, which is why there's so much emphasis put on preliminary practices in like Tibetan Buddhism. The yogic practices of Tibetan Buddhism, like Tumo, etc., are all about the awakening of Kundalini. But there are so many preliminary practices that are done to stop you from being an asshole when Kundalini is awakened,
That's
because then you're
correct.
just going to be more of an asshole.
That's correct. And I mean, I was thinking, as I often do, I was thinking about the yama and niyama, like the
Yes.
first and second, steps on the path.
Yep.
But now I'm confused because that's Patanjali's eightfold path of yoga, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And
Hatha Yoga Pradipika lists yama niyama,
okay,
but there are 10 of them instead of 8 of them, or
no, no,
there are
there's
more of them.
10.
There are
There's more.
10 in
There's 10 in
Patanjali Yoga
Patanjali's.
Sutra.
Yeah.
There are 12 or 16. I'll have to go back to. There are more,
There's
and
more.
they are, some overlap and some are different. But Hatha
Interesting.
Yoga Pradipika gives yama niyama.
And
Everybody gives like do's and don'ts, not as morals like you're going to go to hell, but in order for, as you practice these more esoteric practices, you will develop powers or siddhis. You will develop psychic powers. You will develop magnetism. You will develop these powers. Oh, I've got a film. And so you need these moral precepts to keep you from being an asshole.
and the very first precept, and
Yeah.
this will have to be a separate podcast. The reason why I got confused is because from that text, from Patanjali's text, there is mention of postural yoga and pranayama, but I just wanted to clear up a question about that, but later. But
There
anyway,
are, but no specifics.
no specifics. Okay,
No
so
specifics. It's just like do some asana, do some pranayama, but he doesn't tell you how.
what?
Patanjali
Okay,
Yoga Sutra is not a manual of embodied physical practice.
it took 1,200 more years to get to that.
Well, or people were doing it and not writing it
I'm
down.
not documenting
We don't
it.
know.
But the point for
But
the
I have a
purpose
film.
of okay,
Yeah,
say the
no.
film, and then I'm going to make a statement on the yamas and niyamas, and then we'll tell a myth. You go first.
Wonderful World of Henry Sugar,
Oh,
right?
interesting. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Because of the development of siddhis through his yogic
Yeah.
practice. And he develops these great siddhis,
Yeah.
right?
You know, it bears mentioning that Roald Dahl was a World War II fighter
Yes.
pilot.
Yes,
He was a
exactly.
World War II, and he was so tall that his head stuck out of the top of some of the airplanes that he flew.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Crown chakra.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if like the fictional stories that he wrote are super trippy if you really think about it. But anyway, okay. So yama niyama, just to kind of put a cap on that part of the conversation that we were having. The very first thing that we are instructed to do on Patanjali's Eightfold Path of Yoga is to not hurt anybody.
Yes.
don't hurt anyone or yourself. And the very first thing that we are instructed to do in the niyama, which is paralleling, is to be clean, to clean up.
That's right.
And we like to
Saucha.
teach these in pairs. So ahimsa and saucha is basically saying, if there's a mess in your bowels, in your space, in your heart, in your mind, it's not going to go
Clean it
well.
up.
Clean it up before you start doing these esoteric practices. If you're hurting someone in this course of this practice, you're not going to be able to continue with it, right? Like, it's like step one. If you can't get past step one, keep working on that before we can make this any more complicated.
Mhm.
And I just think it really bears mentioning and repeating at any given time. And the context I was thinking about that in yesterday is, if you are considering yourself to be an informed and active and engaged practitioner, and aspects of your practice don't extend beyond yourself to help reduce harm in this world, that's a big question to be percolating on, right?
Absolutely. Increase pleasure, decrease pain. Prime objective. Okay,
Myth.
really quick myth. So I wanted to talk about the sword and the stone.
Mm.
Because there
Explore.
are not, as far as I know, any actual myths about Kundalini. From, the Hindu Vedic tradition, actually about Kundalini. We don't have a myth about her, nor the Nagas themselves. I mean, I might be able to pull one up, but I didn't have one at the top of my head. But in Arthurian legend, there's this sword, right? Driven into a stone. And so that is that downward, inert root chakra mineral. And the prophecy is only that the true king could draw it out, and everyone tries and tries, and they pulled, but the sword stays, as if the stone was holding it. And then here comes this very small boy, very weak, very overlooked, and he just places his hand on it and it slides free. That lightning flash of awakening that we prepare, and then when lightning strikes, we don't know when it will happen. All we can do is prepare, and then that lightning flash of Purva Bhadrapada, that is the surprise awakening, the spontaneous Sahaja awakening, written about by the great mystics like Lala. And so this makes him king, not just politically, it's the awakening of the hidden power that is sleeping or locked in the earth. And then there's some very beautiful things that happen in that mythic cycle. Now, I'm not saying that this mythic cycle is about Kundalini, but there are parallels. It goes into the lake, it gets thrown into the lake, which is the the second chakra is water, and then it rises up by the lady of the lake, Kundalini. She lifts it up out of the water as a flaming sword, as Manipuri chakra, and as it rises up. And of course, there is, all of the legends and metaphors of the knights and the attainment of the grail, which is the cup or the chalice of Amrit that lies in the upper centers. So that's what I was thinking about. As Kundalini rises, then we're crowned by the sovereign energy of our own nervous system, lit with this charisma and power and grace.
I love that. The thing that came to mind as you were describing Arthur, who is a child without any known particular strength, who just effortlessly releases the sword from the stone. It reminds me of how, of course, so let's say in postural yoga practice, we practice and we practice and we refine our practice, and there are peak poses or challenging poses that we may strive to attain for a long, long time. And no matter how hard we do it, we just simply cannot get into that shape or find that balance. And then one day, without really thinking about it, we suddenly do. And it's like the body just clicks in, and it's, have we done a lot of preparation and practice and strength to get there? Yes. And it's it's actually in the moment when we are not really trying to attain anything that the mind suddenly creates the space to do that.
Right.
And
That's Sahaja awakening,
mhm,
right? And we could do a whole podcast about the parallels with use of psychedelic drugs and plant medicines that allow us to see what is that potential is, and we often see in rainbows, but
mhm,
it's not sustainable, right? It shows us like we've never seen in color before. It shows us that color exists, and then we
mhm.
have to self-generate that potential within ourselves.
That's right. Uh,
Well,
on that
that was
note,
a really fun episode. Good job.
we'll be back after the eclipse, and we'll have more on that topic. We can talk about the relationship between the eclipse axis and Kundalini and the chakras as well. But yeah, stay tuned for more.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Namah Shivaya.